All right, well, y'all want to welcome everyone back to Drunk Sports Talk, New York's new #1 sports talk show. We are the voice of the streets. Allow me to reintroduce myself. It's your boy Cash. I'm flying solo tonight, and we have a very special guest. One of my favorite Knicks podcasts, man. There's only a couple of Knicks podcasts out there that's worth mentioning, and he's definitely one of them, man. The Knicks Recap, man. What's going on, brother? How you feeling?
What's going on, family? Appreciate you having me on. That's a very kind compliment. There's so many different YouTubers out there right now. So the fact that, you guys, your audience, and some of the other people watch me, it means a lot. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Listen, man, this is I'm a lifelong Knicks fan. I've been a Knicks fan since '86. Patrick Ewing, Mark Jackson's rookie year.
Yes.
I might be giving everyone my age, you know what I'm saying? I'm an old head. But we've touched on we've been on the brink of championships in certain times, 94, 99.
Yeah.
But overall, it's been very dark couple of decades for the New York Knicks. You know what I'm saying? The whole James Dolan getting involved and meddling and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
we get Leon Rose. We finally starting to see some light at the end of this tunnel. I think Leon Rose has done a tremendous job. I think his patience is unbridled, unmatched. He could have went out and got Donovan Mitchell. He walked away from Danny Ainge. That showed a lot of restraint because there's a lot of pressure when you're a GM of the Knicks. It's pressure to go out and get the big guy, have the guy come to the Garden, the big star. The hoop, the glamour, the lights, all that. My question to you is, we're finally starting to make some moves, man. All chips are pushing to the middle of the table, it seems like this year. Is it fair to say this is a championship or bust team the way it's presently constructed? I mean, we needed some depth at the one. We went out and got that. Brought in Campaign. I like that move a lot. We got the, quote unquote steal of the draft and Tyler Kolek. I love him. We're going to talk about him in a minute. Still haven't figured out the backup center spot. Kind of wonder what's going on with Precious. We'll get to that in a minute. But in your opinion, is it championship or bust for the Knicks this season?
It's not championship or bust. I have a huge issue with that whole statement, championship or bust, because that means that if I don't win a championship this year, I failed. And I don't think that's true. Because if you're talking about a window, the Knicks have a window, right? Their window, some people have it at 3 years, 4 years. I have it at 5. I have it at 5 years because I go by Jalen Brunson. This team is going to run by Jalen. As long as Jalen does what he needs to do, this team is going to run just like that. It's not championship or bust, but it is competitive now because now you set a certain statement to the league where your team is now better than it was last year to a point where getting to the playoffs and if you lost in the first round would not be acceptable. So now you've upped the standard. Now your level of what is successful has changed because your roster has changed. So for me now, I think successful means Eastern Conference Finals because that's eluded the Knicks for the last 2 years, and that would be success. Now, do I want it to end there? No. I want a championship. We want to break the drought. Everybody wants that. I want that for a fact. But I understand the steps to this. I remember seeing the Miami Heat and all of the super teams that they had, and it doesn't take a year to do that. Sometimes it takes a little bit more than a year. We got to talk about Julius Randle coming off an injury. Mikal Bridges, his first year with this team. OG Anunoby starting a whole new year with a new team, with an entirely new roster that maybe he knows some about last year, but it's really different now. So, yes, it's competitive. Yes, they need to do something very good next year. For me, it's Eastern Conference Finals. But if they fail to get to the finals, and let's say they lose to the Celtics in 7 or 6, I'm not going to think it was a bust. Now I'm looking to next year saying, okay, now how do we get better so that way we're not in that situation again? If they don't do it in 4 to 5 years, you can call it a bust. But they got a window for a reason. But it's not a year.
5-year window. Absolutely. You mentioned the Eastern Conference Finals. The road to that's probably going to have to go to the Celtics. They seem to be the cream of the crop in the East. The 76ers have gotten a lot better. Obviously, they've got, obtained Paul George. They've already had Embiid, Tyrese Maxey. They went out and got Caleb on. I thought that was good. I'm hearing Reggie Jackson has plans to possibly sign there if he clears waivers.
He already did, actually.
Oh, he already did? Okay, cool. Yeah. So that's a really great pickup. Orlando has gotten better, bringing in Pope. Both the Wagners are still there. Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs. The East is good. Miami seems to be running on the treadmill, so to speak, a little bit, but they're always a threat. In my opinion, it's Philly and the Knicks and Boston. How much of an obstacle is the Philadelphia 76ers in the arms race to get to the top in the East? In your opinion?
It's. I think I'm gonna get a lot of hate on this, but
Yeah.
I don't fear Philly at all because we just knocked down a hobbled Philly team with a hobbled Knicks team in the playoffs, where the games matter the most. Whatever you want to say about Embiid or his health, I can tell you one thing: Embiid is never going to be fully healthy going into a postseason because I've never seen it before. So he's gonna be doing something that's never happened before, and he's getting older as a big man in this league, just dealing with more knee injuries.
Indeed.
I don't think a healthy year exists for him moving forward. Then Paul George. Great that he had a good year last year. Played, 70-something games? Great. Look the year before that. 50-something. Year before that, maybe 30-something. He doesn't play like that. So great that he did it and he got paid. He got his contract. Cool. But if one of those guys go down, it's over. And the fact of the matter is the chances of both of those guys being unavailable is extremely high. So that means you're putting all the weight on Maxey. So I don't fear them as much as I actually fear the Bucks. The Bucks, for me, are the team that nobody's looking at because nobody's looking at Dame anymore or Giannis.
Right.
Like those two guys fell off the face of the earth. Like they're not good players anymore. In 1 year,
which is incredible. It's
crazy to me. Giannis is going to be better than he was last year because now he's even more motivated. They forgot now.
Right.
Dame is boxing with people on the beach. He's he's already locked in because he wants to be in better shape and condition going into next year.
Right. He came in out of shape last year. He said that with the divorce and everything. Absolutely.
Right. And then Doc Rivers being a coach still, he's going to make them be a regular season hustler. Maybe they'll lose in the playoffs, sure. But during the regular season, they'll blow a
3-1 lead in the second round.
Absolutely. You already know it's gonna happen. That's why I actually want them to get there. But same thing though. They're gonna be a top team. I think they're going to be a better team than Philly because Philly has to figure it all out. How is it gonna? You think that? So what is Paul George gonna do? Play the Tobias Harris role? What did Tobias do? The defense is not going to help just on the scoring, and he's too old to play that level of defense. If anybody who's listening to the show right now is scared of Philly, don't be scared of Philly. Philly should be scared of themselves because of injury. Any injury, one injury to Embiid ruins their entire season. And newsflash, spoiler alert, it's going to happen anyways.
It's going to happen. At some point, it's going to happen. Wow. That's a great take. I tend to agree with you on that. Listen, on paper, you look at the Knicks and you go, wow, they have a couple of little holes, but for the most part, they're stacked, right? Like you mentioned before, they bring in Mikal Bridges. Obviously, Julius is coming back. It's almost like getting It's almost like bringing in an All-NBA player for the first time because he got hurt last year. So you're bringing in another guy. Obviously, Jalen Brunson, Devo. We all know the usual suspects. On paper, depth, shooting, three-point shooting, rebounding, defense. We know how Tibbs is. We know the Nova guys have played together without Mikal Bridges on the Knicks. But my thing is, on paper is one thing, and translating that play onto the court is another thing. Like I said, we know the three Nova guys have played together, but now you're bringing in a whole other piece, a whole other entity, so to speak. We know they worked in college, but this is the NBA. Do you think that is immediately going to click? Or is there going to be that Miami Heat period with the Heatos and the Big Three where it took them about maybe 15 to 20 games to really, get the engine revved up, in your opinion?
I don't think it's the Nova guys that's going to have to make an adjustment. I think Randle is going to have to make the biggest adjustment because Mikal doesn't care. Mikal can be the one. He can be the two. He doesn't want to be the one, though. But he can be the one. He can be the two. He can be the three. He can be the four. He can be non-existent. He's done it before in Phoenix. So he doesn't need to be the guy. And he was the guy and didn't like it because he couldn't do what he wanted to do. He's a roamer. On defense, he's a roamer. You need to allow him to be that roamer. Same with OG. He needs to be allowed to roam. That's how you can guard 1 through 5. Mikal can do the same thing. He doesn't get the same type of credit, but he can. So the fact that you have both of those guys, Julius Randle now has to find himself back to where he was in January. In January, if you notice what he was doing with his play, he didn't force anything. He played within the flow of the offense.
Right.
That's how you have to play with this unit. You can't force anything. Jalen's the only person that's going to be forcing anything. And that's because he's the head of the snake. He's a superstar on this team.
Right.
And it all will go through him. And once he penetrates and creates, he'll have 4 options now versus 2 or 1.
Right.
So that's the difference right now.
Well. Yeah.
Exactly. And with the Mikal Bridges situation, I feel like it's going to work like Dante did, seamlessly.
Yeah.
Because those guys don't care about being number 1. Hart doesn't care about being number 1. Dante doesn't care about being number 1. Mikal doesn't care about being number 1. And if Jalen didn't have the superstar run he's having right now, he would allow Julius to be the guy he was. But the fact of the matter is he recognizes that he is the guy, and so does Randle. So Randle right now needs to adjust to now potentially some nights being the third option, or some nights maybe not even being an option because we're good without him. That's going to be the biggest adjustment, and being okay with not having that major impact. That's going to be the biggest thing.
That, I think that's a great point, and that worries me a little bit. Going from essentially the guy to maybe last year the 1A to Jalen's 1, right? And now you're saying on some nights maybe being the third option or maybe not even involved all the way in the offense. This is coming from a 25 and essentially a 25 and 10 guy, 3 or 4-time All-Star, All NBA player. That's a bruise to your ego. I know he wants to be a team guy. I love Julius because when Julius came here at a time when no one wanted to come here. So there's a soft spot in my heart for Julius. He wanted to be a Knick. He embraced the pressure. He reps the Knicks. Like, I know you just went through it, but do you think he can do this without ego playing a part in this?
Yeah, we saw it in January. I have no doubt in my mind, actually. I think, to be honest, Randle even more so being on the bench and seeing what the Knicks did last year without him, knowing that if he was there, what they could have done. It's simple. It's all about sacrifice. And he's been saying all the right things. Think about this. Think about it like this. If Randle cared about his individuality and everything about himself, he would want that extension on August 3rd. He'd demand that extension on August 3rd. And then Nick should give it to him if that was the case, because he's deserved it up to this point. But he's not doing that. If anything, the reports are indicating he's pushing the Knicks to get a backup center. He wants this Knicks team to get better so they can be competitive. Now, why would you do that if you understand that next year, with the roster that you have, if you don't sacrifice, which he's doing already right now, how can you be that next level team? He's already done it before the season's even started. So you're telling me next season he's not going to be okay with it? Matter of fact, the stats might look a little bit different. Doesn't mean it's not going to be impressive. Maybe he has 7 points. What if he has 14 assists? Because every time he goes down low to play bully ball, he passes it to Mikel, OG, Jalen, Dante, whoever else can shoot, and then he gets another assist. So maybe it changes for him in terms of the level of impact, but it doesn't mean he won't be anything to this team. He might matter even more in the moments that we never had somebody like that before, because we never had anybody down low that can do what Julius does. So the fact that you can get that and have that as a threat, and then you have the scorers that we have in the corner. You're talking about Mikel and OG, 50% from OG on corner threes, and Mikel Bridges. He doesn't do that point and shoot thing for no reason. He does it because he's a lock and loaded shooter. So these two guys on your wing with Jalen Brunson controlling everything at the helm, with Julius side, we're not even talking about rebounding, not talking about putback dunks, anybody at the center position. I'm scared for the league playing against us.
None of that trapping Jalen in the corner. That's a wrap. You know what I mean?
Do it if you want to. And watch what happens with Julius, Mikel, OG, Dante. They won't light you up. You can't leave Jay. You have to stay with Jalen. But the problem is you do one-on-man coverage with Jalen. One-on-one, he's going to toast you. He's toasting double teams right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Get out of here, man. I feel sorry for the league.
I'm super pumped. Excuse me. So I'm watching Knicks Recap. I think it was yesterday, and I hear you talking about Tom Thibodeau can get extended. Reports today that he got extended. I'm a little unclear on the money. I don't know if I missed something, but I didn't hear too much talk about what the money attached to the deal. I love Tom. Tom has been great. He brought us out of the depths of hell. Obviously, we know he changed the culture, the defensive identity. He gave us that identity. He's done a wonderful, fantastic job. I love Tom Thibodeau, man. But there are a certain faction of the Knicks fans who are critical of Tom Thibodeau, and I can't really be mad at them. And you know what I'm about to say. They say he runs players into the ground. He overplays players. We saw what happened at the end of last year. Now, we know Julius' shoulder thing was a freak accident, but some would say, why was he in the game when, up 20-some-odd points with a couple of minutes left? So, you know what I mean? But in Minnesota, he ran players into the ground. In Chicago, he ran players into the ground with excessive minutes and short rotations. I love Tom Thibodeau. This year, I don't know how we can do that, but we have even more depth than we had last year. What do you expect from Tom Thibodeau in terms of the way he handles the rotation? And do you think we have the same issues with him moving forward this year?
I expect Tom Thibodeau to expand back to a 10-man because he has the people now to expand to a 10-man. I think that Thibodeau, beforehand, we needed to give him starters that he trusted. We did. Now we got him. Now we needed to give him a bench that he trusted. I think we've done that as well, too. And I think he's just as impressed with Kolek as anybody else, which is why he'll expand it to 10-man, because, again, that gives you the best rest for your entire team. It gives you the rest for Jalen Brunson. It allows other players to come in and get involved if they need to. Maybe you get a campaign in there as well if you need some time or somebody's injured. But I don't think Tom Thibodeau is going to have a hard time with this team because everybody buys into Thibodeau. They bought into him. They bought into what he's saying, everything like that. Once you have that, I don't care what coach you are. You could be David Fizdale. If you have that level of acceptance and trust with your team, you're not going to go anywhere because nobody can replace that. For anybody who's the contingent of fan base that doesn't want Thibs to be here, can't answer this one question. Who do you want?
Yeah.
Who can help this team better than? Because we tried it.
Yeah.
I've been here through every single era from Knicks coaches from my entire life. I've seen every single coach come here, say the exact same thing, and fail in 1 or 2 years.
Yes,
maybe
sir.
2 years if you got lucky. Sometimes you basically don't even get a season. Take that for data. You know, like we're talking about like people who don't even get recognition sometimes. Thibodeau to be here for as long as he has been, one of the longest coaches after the next season, will be one of the longest head coaches we ever had. One of the highest paid coaches we ever had. Second was crazy because Larry Brown had a $60 million deal for 5 years. Right. He had like 12-something million, which is nuts considering the fact that he had it back in 2000 and something. And we're talking about 2024 right now. And Tom Thibodeau not even close to matching that. You said the contract amount. They didn't really say it. They don't normally announce it for coaches, but according to Ian Bailey, it's around $10 million annually. So about $30 million for the entire year contract over the 3 years that he signed for, which is great. I think the long-term contract extension makes sense for him. I don't think he's going to sign another contract extension after this. I think he goes straight to the GM office and he becomes the Knicks GM, and somebody else comes in after coach after that. Because if he can't do it in the next 3 years, he'll never be able to do it.
So you think Leon Rose and CAA Mafia just continue as president of basketball operations and Tom goes to GM?
Absolutely. Why is it vacant?
I can see that. Yeah,
it's been vacant since Scott Perry left. What is it vacant for?
Yeah, I can see that. I could definitely see that. You mentioned a few minutes ago, Kolek. He seems to be the darling. Seems to be a steal. And you know, me watching him, I'm saying to myself, man, this guy looks poised. He looks confident. He controls the floor. He just has a calmness to him that most rookies don't have. I know he played a couple of years in college. That probably has something to do with it. But there is a logjam at the guard spot with the Knicks. We bring in Payne, a veteran guy who's going to give Jalen some rest off the bench, handling the ball. Obviously, we have Kolek, Brunson, and then we have Deuce, right? Now you're hearing rumblings. They possibly might put Deuce. They didn't add him in the Mikal Bridges trade, but you're hearing possibly for a backup center. You're hearing rumblings. I don't know how true that is. I like Deuce. I think he's a Tibbs guy. I don't know if he's a quintessential point guard. He's more of a combo guy to me. Is there a real possibility in your mind that Deuce could get traded, or is that just rumors?
I think the Deuce getting traded thing all has to deal with the player that's coming on the other end. If it's for a Kessler or a Duran, he's traded, gone. But if it's for, maybe a Clint Capello or a Brook Lopez, maybe they don't do that. Because, again, those players are likely going to be a one-year rental. That's why they're looking for high salary centers, because they know they're going to be cheap. They're on a 1 year, likely not going to cost that much. And that's good for the Knicks because they don't have that much to give up. They got 2 first-round picks that are protected, maybe a pick swap. They got Deuce McBride, if you want to include them, Jericho Sims, which if you do that, you have no backup in terms of center anymore. So you create a whole nother problem if you trade them. And then obviously those protected picks if you want to include them. So that's your trade package if you're the Knicks. And then you got to think to yourself, what team is even going to want that for any particular center? The only one that comes to mind really is Nick Richards in terms of like the most obvious center that you could get right now for a cheap bargain, because Hornets not doing anything. They'll probably accept anything you want to give them for a player like that who's a backup for them. That would be a backup plus starter for you if Mitch goes down. So I think the role would be different. I can see the Knicks doing that, but I don't know if they would want to include Deuce in that. Deuce was a major piece for them last year. They saw how he broke out. His defense has been great. They have to be clear, they haven't said anything about trading Deuce. They haven't said we want to trade Deuce, but the reporting is consistent that if a team was going to ask for a player back in a backup center trade, Deuce would be the primary player in that deal. So maybe the Knicks don't want to give him up, but if it's for the backup that they want, they might have to give him up. And if that's the case, what happens then? It's going to be up to the Knicks to make that decision. I don't want them to trade Deuce, but if it's on the table, if it's for Kessler or Duran, there's no way you can say no to that. Your team gets infinitely better because of that. And Kolek is here. I know he's not he's not going to be ready right away. Yeah, but he's there, and he's going. Give him 2 years. He'll probably be a star player in 2 years if he gets right development, because he has all the tools, every single tool available. And the fact that he can pass already is crazy. You just got to improve his defense. Improve that man's defense. Yeah, he's a stud.
His feet are in the mud right now. You think he'll start the season in the G League, or he'll get a roster spot?
He'll probably get a roster spot, but I don't think he'll play. I think you'll see him like probably the Deuce role. How Deuce had a roster spot but didn't really play. You saw most in the G League. I feel like that's going to be Kolek until a situation arises where he needs to play. And then I think when Thibodeau sees what he can do against real NBA talent, I think it's going to change things. But you never know. Because you still have training camp, you still have preseason. Now, he could go crazier. Maybe he gets even better during the summertime after Summer League. And now he shows an even bigger bag that he had before. If that happens, I mean, he could push a lot of people out of the way. Thibodeau's not going to. I think the thing with Thibodeau is that he gets criticized for not playing rookies. I think since rookies don't do enough to get played. If they did enough, I think that they would. Yeah. And Kolek might be the guy that can push a lot of people around to get there because he has the experience, he has the chip on his shoulder, and he wants to win and do anything possible to win. And he doesn't need to score to be impactful. His passing already there. So it's going to be very interesting. But I think his defense is going to dictate how much he plays.
I agree. Kolek reminds me a little bit of Lonzo Ball. Maybe he came in, dominated the summer league. I believe he won MVP that year in the summer league.
I think so.
Very good point guard, very good passer defensively. Wound up fixing the shot, so he's in the gym. But he got hurt. So hopefully, if Kolek, like you said, Kolek stays healthy in a couple of years, the problem with him will be he'll want to go on and start somewhere else like a quickly, and we'll have to deal with that. But in the meantime, hopefully, we'll get some really valuable minutes out of him. Let's talk a little bit about Champagne Campaign, man. I like the move when he came in. I thought it was a good move, solid move. We definitely needed another ball handler. He was very good on Phoenix. Little bit of a backslide, a little bit on the Sixers, but hit some incredible shots against us last year. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Was that the guy? I didn't expect that trade. To me, that came out of left field. I might not be as tapped in as you guys, but was that the guy necessarily you thought was coming in here, and was there someone else on your mind that you thought might have filled that role a little bit better than Campaign?
I definitely didn't want Campaign at all. I wasn't even thinking about Campaign.
Me too,
I don't like Campaign, not even a little bit. Actually, the fact that I got to like him now is a little bit heartbreaking because I hated him for so many years. But it's okay. I can always forgive him. I'm not going to forgive. I'll forgive him, I guess, for now. Payne it was a very head-scratching signing. That's why I waited, because I think that we're still waiting for the next move of the center. So I don't want to judge it yet until that happens. Because if you get a good center and you got Payne as a kind of a resort to getting that center, then I have no problem with that. But as of right now, on its face, it's weird. It doesn't make sense. If anything, the person that you would want to get would be Tyus Jones, plays point guard a little bit better, controls an offense.
He's still out there, right? Is he still out there?
The amount of money he wants is crazy. He's not going to be able to get it. So that's why the Knicks didn't go that way. They were going to get Tyus, but they couldn't make the money work. So they went the opposite way and shifted to Payne, who has a good relationship with Mikal Bridges. But on a 1-year vet minimum, it's hard to be mad at the deal because it's so low. But it doesn't make sense when you consider the guard lineup. You got Brunson, you got Dante, you got Deuce, you got Kolek, and then you got Payne. And then you heard that now Payne is behind Kolek. If he's behind Kolek, then he's never going to play.
Yeah.
What time are you seeing? So I understand the veteran leadership. I understand, having a voice in the locker room. I understand potentially if it comes down to it, he has playoff experience, but the experience doesn't matter if you're never going to be able to show it. So it's a head scratcher for me. The one odd move for me was the Campaign signing. I still don't understand it, but I'm holding my right to judge the entire thing until they make that move for a center, because I still think those two things are related.
No, I agree. And I know they say Kolek is in front of him, but in my logic tells me when the season starts, because like we said earlier, Tom's not crazy about playing rookies, and I don't think Campaign came here without some assurance that he would get some type of minutes. He's a veteran guy. Let's talk a little bit about the center position, because you brought that up a few minutes ago. You mentioned Doran from Detroit. We talked about Kessler. I know there was some talks with Danny Ainge, but Danny Ainge makes my skin crawl. He's always trying to, hoodwink and bamboozle you. You know what I'm saying? For a stupid, absorbent amount of draft picks. You're hearing about the Rocket Center Alprin. Who do you see here? We're not. It seems like Jericho Sims is never going to be the number 2 guy. Maybe he'll live as the number 3 guy. I don't know. He has a lot of great attributes. Can jump out the gym. Hasn't been able to refine his skills. Ariel Huck-Porty, I saw a little bit of him play this summer. He has some promise. Daddy, who do you think when the season starts is going to back up Mitchell Robinson?
Probably Precious Achua. I don't think that the Knicks are going to make that trade
first.
Yeah, but he's waiting there for a reason because he knows he's going to get paid by the Knicks either way. Either he waits, he's going to get paid because he waited, or he's going to get paid because he gets a sign and trade. So I think that either way, he's going to get the most money possible by waiting for the Knicks. So it doesn't do anything problem for him to do it. I think that the Knicks probably assured him either we're going to sign you or we're going to sign and trade you. But either way, we got you. That's why he's waiting, because it wouldn't be on no other reason. I believe that's going to be the case because there's nobody left. Not really a free agent remaining that you can sign. The trades don't seem to be working. The reason that the trades targets keep changing every week is because they keep failing to make a trade every week. So they keep shifting to go to somebody else, and then it doesn't work because the price doesn't work. And the price is probably not going to work until the trade deadline. When you understand where people are, how teams have fluctuated. And I think right now, the team that you have, the team that you're going to see, I mean, there's not really anybody I could think of that the Knicks could even try to pull off a trade for that would be low cost. I think that the only player that would make sense right now that could fit all the assets that we have, maybe without having to handle Deuce, maybe, because Charlotte might just want picks, is Nick Richards. That's the only person that I could think you could keep Deuce and get Richards for. But that's that would be a maybe at best. If Leon doesn't want to give up those assets, he'll hold it. And then we'll have Precious that you will be the backup. And I mean, you could do a lot worse than Precious, to be honest. So
you can. Okay, so here's I love Precious, Bronx guy, New York native. Big heart, played some really great minutes for last year when Julius went down. What worries me about him is that we all know Mitchell is injury prone, right? That's a given. He's going to miss some time. Precious is undersized. You mentioned earlier guys like the Greek Freak. You got Boston with Porzingis. You have Joel Embiid, and although he may go down, until he does, you're gonna have to deal with some of these bigger centers in the league. You know, Bam is an undersized center, but Bam's a tough guy. A lot of big centers in the league. Does him being undersized worry you a little bit if Mitchell goes down?
Absolutely. That's why they're looking for a backup right now. That's why I want them to get another backup besides Precious. They need one. I would love a Durant. I'd love a Kessler. I love all these guys because they have the upside to play backup and then start in case Mitchell goes down. So same thing with Hartenstein. The reason we were so good is because he could do both. We need somebody who could be able to do both. A young guy would be able to do that. So that's why I'm okay with trading Deuce for a young guy. I'm not trading Deuce for an aging veteran. I'm not trading for Click Capella. I'm not trading for Brook Lopez. A damn sure ain't trading for Vucevic. There's no way in the hell I'm not trading for a paper-thin plastic bag on defense. There's no way. So, you know, you gotta make sure you're making the right moves and the right fit. Leon Rose has been doing that forever at this point. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to disagree with anything he's doing. But if I'm being quite honest, I think that the Knicks are going to make one more move. It's going to be a trade, but it may not be a player that we're thinking about. And that's only if they can land it. They're okay with signing Precious Achiuwa as well, too. They've been in constant communication with that man. They've not let that man go away. They're making sure he understands we're here for you. We got you. Don't sign with nobody else. They're checking in with that guy a lot. So I think that matters. You don't do that unless you have something waiting on the table. Something's coming. Another move is coming very soon.
Absolutely. We're here talking to the Knicks recap. I have another question for you. As a Knicks fan, I know you've noticed this. There seems to be Knick hate from everyone outside of New York. You got from Charles Barkley to Paul Pierce to like Joy Taylor to like all these different media pundits nationally. It seems like they don't want to accept that the Knicks are getting better. You know what I'm saying? And I know New Yorkers are deemed as arrogant. You know, I've lived out of state before, and I know what the perception of us is out of state. Why do you think there's so much Knick hate besides, you know what I'm saying, out of New York?
It's a cool thing to do. Yeah. Everybody hates on the Knicks. For my entire lifetime, before I was even a Knicks fan, it was cool to hate on the Knicks. So, I mean, like, you know, it's back in the 90s, that's exactly what you used to do when you used to wear the Ewings and people used to wear the Jordans. Hate. Why are you wearing those? What are you wearing those for? You can't afford Jordans? I don't want to wear Jordans. There's a difference.
You're right.
You know, like, so, like, the hate's always been there. So, I mean, and it even started, you know, with Patrick Ewing so much because Ewing used to, oh my Lord, man, but bully? Talk about bully ball. He was the original bully and nobody liked Ewing. And that's why all the shit talking and everything else like that, it all came from that. That's the era where it came from. And that's where the hate started. Fights started over there. People still remember those fights from the 90s, 1999 fights with Jeff Van Gundy hanging on to that guy's leg. I mean, like, listen, man, we're talking about the Knicks who were seen as a tough guy. And anytime you're a tough guy, people love to hate on the bullies and the tough guys. The Knicks in the 90s were bullies. And then when it was time to hate because they finally weren't bullies anymore, they relished in it. And they did it for 20 plus years. Obviously, besides the Melo vacation in 2013, they kept doing it. And now they can't do it. Now they can't do it anymore. So now they got to find different things to pick at. So now instead of picking on the team, which is a contender, they can't say anything about it now.
Right.
Now they're picking on the moves the team makes. Oh, Jalen Brunson signed for that. They left a lot of money on the table. Is it your money? Like, do you care? Is it your money? You think he's not going to get that back in endorsement and sponsorships? By the way, in 5 years, you can sign about a $500 million supermax contract. I don't know why anybody's mentioning that for, but that's probably what Leon Rose promised him. Hey, thank you for this. We're going to make sure you get that $500 million come 2020 something, whatever the case may be. So this whole thing about where the Knicks are right now and the hate that they have, it's all stemmed from what it used to be. And now that they can't hate on the same things, they find other things to hate because it's the cool thing. It's never been the cool thing to do, to root and cheer for New York. Never.
Indeed. Absolutely.
It's always been better and more fun for others to hate on us, regardless if we're thriving or we're at the bottom. When we're at the bottom, they love it even more. So that's all it is.
I agree 100%. You know, I'm glad you mentioned the JB contract because it has me scratching my head because you brought up a great point. I thought about this a lot lately. You know, you have times when players go for the whole bag and then you got the consensus of the public say, oh, they're greedy. Sports players are greedy. Why don't you take the team-friendly deal? JB takes the team-friendly deal. And like you say, he has people, there's media pundits out there saying, oh, this guy's crazy. Forget about the owners of billionaires. Why won't you take all the money? You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you don't mind, I would like to play a clip from Nick Wright, and I would like to hear your thoughts on that before we get out of here. Here we go. Sure. Because I thought this was an interesting take.
He get a max, suffered a hip injury, and never got any of that money. Never got any of it. And by taking this deal here, Jalen locks in 4 for 157, which, by the way, after 3 years he can opt out of if he's still a star and then sign that massive 5 for 400 people have talked about and be an $80 million a year player, which is unbelievable. Million is incorrect. What I am saying is it set the conversation on a path that I think is a touch misleading. So Woj, when he broke the news, called it an unprecedented move in favor of team building to keep everyone together, etc. And I don't feel that that is exactly right. And I honestly have felt that the coverage of this has been, again, I haven't been, to be fair, I was out of the country and I wasn't following it, day by day. So I don't know if it's right to say the coverage of it has been lacking, but the initial coverage that I saw was a little, to me, unintentionally misleading. Because I don't look at this purely as, sorry, my computer just restarted. I don't look at this purely as Jalen Brunson taking a team-friendly discount. I look at it as Jalen Brunson hedging against catastrophic outcomes while maintaining ultimate long-term upside. So to be clear, Brunson took 4 157. In a year, he would have been eligible for 5 270. So $113 million delta there with an additional contract year on it. It was, to me, presented a bit as if he had the 5 270 available now and instead took 4 for 157. And that is flatly not it. That is not what has happened here. So why does that matter? I don't view it purely as taking a discount if the contract we're talking about is not actually available to you until you play another year of basketball. And the reason that that is relevant is because we have seen so many times guys get get injured. Well, I shouldn't say so many times. It's the one instance everyone kind of thinks of, which is what happened with Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas played was getting ready to get a max, suffered a hip injury, and never got any of that money. Never got any of it. And by taking this deal here, Jalen locks in 4 for $157, which, by the way, after 3 years he can opt out of if he's still a star and then sign that massive 5 for $400 people have talked about and be an $80 million a year player, which is unbelievable. Millions in.
So that was a little lengthy, and I apologize. But the gist of it was saying that there was basically an ulterior motive, and the way that the PR people are spinning it is he's giving a team-friendly discount when, in fact, he's hedging against injury and putting himself in his position to be the first $80 million player a year. You know, Nick kind of walks to the beat of his own drum, and he's somewhat of a shock jock. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've never heard somebody be so wrong in my entire life before.
Yeah.
Two things can be true at once. So yeah, he did it for security. Yeah, he did it because he wants a long-term future. But does it mean he still didn't do what we all said he did? He took less to sign. The decision was to wait to sign or to sign. We all knew if he waited to sign, he would have got 270. We know that. He knows that.
Indeed.
But he did it because he knew doing that would cause the Knicks to have more flexibility within their championship window. By the way, now that he's done that, what happened after that happened? Oh, magically, reports came out that Mikal Bridges was going to do the same thing. Oh, indeed. And then reports came out after that Julius Randle may do the same thing. Mm-hmm. So hold on, your superstar who didn't have to do this chose to do it. And now the compounding effect is your other two quote unquote stars want to do the same thing.
Indeed.
We can hate on the move. We can talk about how he could have done this. He could have done that, whatever the money is. Well, he didn't really have the contract in front of his face. I don't have to tell you he can make $270 million without you having to understand that he can make it. Jalen Brunson did not have to sign that contract extension this year. There is no reason for him to do so besides one, because he wanted to help the Knicks. That's the only reason. It doesn't make sense legitimately from any other standpoint. It doesn't make sense to do what Brunson did unless you are making a sacrifice for a greater good. And that greater good was the Knicks. That take was one of the most foolish takes I have ever heard because it blamed Brunson for taking less money when in reality, they were talking about the fact that they didn't take less money. He just took what was available to him. The stupidest thing I could ever hear in my life, just because I know 230 is not, or 270 is not offered to me now.
Right.
Am I so stupid to think it's not going to be offered to me in a year?
Right.
Nick Wright has a show because he likes to give these over the top takes. Over the top sometimes means he can err in the side of wrong. This time, all he did was start out on wrong and then proceeded to get worse as the take got there. That was horrible in every single way. Please don't play that clip again. I'm sorry for anybody had to listen to that. That was terrible. Horrible.
Yes, sir. No, I agree. I just when I thought that I had the same thoughts as you. I said, this is the most asinine, crazy way to spin something. You know what I'm saying? That you can think of, man. But it speaks to like what you mentioned a few minutes ago, the Knicks haters. You know what I mean? They'll come up with anything. It's cool to hate on the Knicks, and they're keeping that tradition going. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Perkins. Perkins, one of the only guys that kind of turned around and kind of started to represent for the Knicks. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm excited. Listen, I really appreciate you being on the show. I'm very excited for this year. You guys already know where you can catch him, but if you don't, if you've been sleeping under a rock for the last 2 years, let them know where they can catch you at.
It's always on YouTube. It's youtube.com/the Knicks Recap. You can follow me there. Follow me on social media all over the place. I got content coming out everywhere. And I actually got a Thibodeau video coming out. Well, probably out right now. And another video tomorrow morning coming out about Payne Dadier, Knicks' new rookie, and what his role on the Knicks is going to be next season because we have some information on that. So definitely want to tune in for that tomorrow.
Knicks Recap. Appreciate you joining us, man. It's a pleasure's all mine.
Always, man. Thank you so much for having me. Continue doing your thing, man. I hope you have a lot of success and hope to be on again next time. Hopefully with less Nick Wright takes, though. So
absolutely, man.
All right,
Take care.
man. Take care.
Have
man.
a good one.
All right, man. Later.
Later.